My name is Nelson Gonzalez. I'm a product manager at Google Cloud, and I'd like to welcome you to our session today. When you look at a name like Accelerate the Creative Process with Text-to-Image Models, right? Two things strike. One is creative, right? So we're talking today about creativity. And second, text-to-image foundation models, so generative AI. So our goal today is to get across those 2 points. We have an exciting session today, and let's get started with it. So first of all, let's continue the introductions. Today, I'm joined by Zach Akel, a fellow colleague from Google. And Zach hails from London, and he came all the way from London to be with us today and to share some exciting demos. I'm also joined today by Vishal Sood, Chief Product Officer at Typeface, who is going to talk about some exciting things bringing typeface to creators worldwide. And I'm also here today with Art Schramm, Chief Product Officer at Omnicom, a very well-known firm focusing on brand marketing. So you're going to get some great experiences today, not only from the Google team, but also for our guest presenters, partners, customers. In terms of an introduction, I'd like to cover 5 key things we'll cover today. So first of all is we start with an intro, and we're going to talk about Imagen on Vertex today. It's Google's generative AI product. But first of all, we start with a basic foundation about text-to-image models, generative AI. Following that, we'll do a deep dive of some of the Imagen features, right? As you heard from Sundar, Thomas Kurian, other executives, we had a number of launches this week for Imagen. We're very happy about that. And we reserved some additional launches that we'll talk about in the session today. Next, we're going to talk about some use cases. And Art and Vishal are going to talk about some real use cases, how they're bringing innovation to users globally. Then one thing you'll know about Imagen is that like 99.9, and you can add many nines after that, of the users and the usage actually won't be users accessing Imagen as Zach and I will share. Most of our users will utilize Imagen leveraging our partners and customers, right? And therefore, Imagen is enterprise scale. It has an SDK where developers can access it in a very simple way. So Zach will take us through that. And then, lastly, we want to share some more resources, right? There's some interesting things happening, other sessions, so we'll cover that as well. So let's get started with the introduction. So Imagen operates in this generative AI space, specifically related to text-to-image generation, right? And maybe if I could ask the audience, raise your hand if you have used a text-to-image model. It doesn't matter whether it's Imagen or not. Okay, wow, that's great. I mean, this is a new technology. I see many hands raised. But for those of you that haven't used them, I wanted to share a brief overview, right? Overview at a top level, text-to-image generation. It is an innovative technology that starts with your creation, your innovation. Simple text prompt. So any creator can think about a text prompt, right? Like this one here, a photo of a cat with bright galaxy-filled eyes, right? And from that text prompt, these models put it into action, and they deliver an image, as you can see here, right? So I wanted to accomplish those 2 things today. Number 1, share a brief overview of what we're talking about, text-to-image generation. And number 2, I know many of you were expecting to see a cat picture, and here is the cat picture. So checkbox. Now, next, I wanted to talk about Imagen, right? So Imagen on Vertex AI lets our customers innovate, create very high quality images, right? Not only create images, which is going from a text to an image, but also starting with an image and generating a caption or understanding what the image says, and many more things, including video, right? Video descriptions, which we announced this week. And the key goal for us is to do it at enterprise scale. And enterprise scale means many things, right? It means doing this in a responsible way, and it also means doing this in a way that enables our customers to grow, right? This is a high growth area, and we have built a service that scales, as much volume as you drive, as you create the images that you need, when you need them, and this service is here to enable you to do that. So that's Imagen. And it's called Imagen on Vertex because Imagen is a key component of our Vertex portfolio, right? And Vertex is our key platform. It's a platform, and also Vertex AI includes tools to enable data scientists, application developers to do many things, including generation of images with Imagen. Now, today, I'm pleased to share that Imagen has a number of really exciting features. And I wanted to cover, at a high level, the 4 key features it offers today. So the first feature is generation. I shared the cat example earlier, right? Generating an image, text to image generation. So that's the key core feature. The next feature is editing, right? Imagen also enables you to take an image, to take a text prompt, and to change that image, right? Edit that image. And we're going to share some really exciting examples about editing. I would say those two, generation and editing, go kind of like side by side. They're very commonly used by many of our customers. Imagen also includes understanding, right? Semantic understanding of images. There's a captioning capability which enables you to submit an image, and Imagen will deliver a caption for the image. It will describe the image, generates that description. And lastly, but not least, Imagen has a sophisticated visual query answering capability. And the model here is that you as a developer, you submit an image, you submit a question, and the model generates an answer based on the question. So you could submit an image of my shirt, right? And you could ask a question, is this a long sleeve shirt? And it will tell you, yes, it's a long sleeve shirt. You could ask the color of the shirt. It will answer all these questions. And it does all of this without the need for any training. It's a generative AI model. So with that foundation, I'm going to now deep dive into some of the features of Imagen available today. First one is core features, right? In terms of core features, we have the key generation feature that's powered by a very high quality model, right, to generate images. We do this in a responsible way, so every time you have generative AI, we at Google, we believe it's really critical for generative AI to support the creation of that content in a responsible way. So we have a number of approaches, user-configurable safety filters to enable you to do that. A key priority for models is speed. So Imagen is a model that you get the outcomes in seconds, right? And that's really critical for our enterprise customers. And then we also have a core capability, which is what we call upscaling, super resolution, where after you generate the image, you can ask Imagen to increase the resolution to 2,000 by 2,000 pixels or 4,000 by 4,000 pixels, right? Next capability is editing, right? Editing, again, starts with an image that you provide and you edit it, right? You can change the scenery, for example. And we're pleased today to introduce some new feature. We see a common use case is to edit images of products, right? For e-commerce, etc. And there's a new feature we'll talk about a bit later called product image editing. Then we have a common feature, which is styles, right? So sometimes in your company, your marketing team, they may have a particular style, a set of colors that they want to leverage. It's part of the brand. Or you may be designing an ad for a new restaurant. We were having dinner, a few of us yesterday, and we were saying, if you start up a restaurant, you want that banner ad for your restaurant to reflect the look and feel of your restaurant. So this is a new capability that enables you to do that. We also have a feature related to tuning. So again, for those in the room, you may have heard Google Research talk about Dream Booth, right? And a Google Research paper that enabled these models to learn specific objects. We call them subjects. So you can not only use Imagen as is, but you can train Imagen with subjects that are relevant to your business. So we're pleased today to introduce a new feature. We call it instant tuning. So we're introducing that in this session today, and we're very happy about that. We're going to have a brief demo very soon. And we also have a image understanding, as I mentioned earlier, with captioning and visual query answering. And then finally, this week, last but not least, we introduced digital watermarking and verification. Sundar introduced that capability. And we're very excited about this. It's a capability that will have many uses, and we'll do a demo for you in a few minutes. So with that, I'd like now to deep dive into some of these features and also share some demos. So image generation, again, this is really critical, right? And the goal here is to make the creative process faster, right? As the title of the session says. So you may be an architect, right? And in the past you have imagined a new building, a new residence, right? And to go from your imagination as an architect to actually getting an image of what you want to build, it will take time, right? Now, with these capabilities, you can create this very fast. You can create images, as you see here, that reflect the goal you have. Or you could be a fashion designer, right? Designing the next fashionable casual shoes, right? It's a technology that applies to many different use cases. So next, what I'd like to do is invite Zach Akil, who is going to share a brief demo of generation capabilities at Imagen.
Okay. So hello, everyone. My name is Zach, and my laptop, I need to log into it first. Who wants to see live demos of generative AI? Okay, excellent. I do too. And I think if we switch to the demo now, we will see the UI in Vertex AI of what the Imagen looks like. So all the features that we are talking about today, you can actually access and test. We like to think of it as testing and prototyping through the UI. So this is an excellent way that without you having to write any code, if you just want to test the capabilities of it, you can go directly into the Vertex AI console and play around with it. Now, I like to play sports. Part of that might be increasing my heart rate. That might also be why I like live demos. But I think I can push things a bit further and get some audience suggestions for the things I'm going to generate. So I visited San Francisco now, and I'm curious to know about some foods that people like to eat here. So if anybody got any suggestions for foods that San Francisco is known for? Shout them out. Clam chowder. Any others? Burritos. What else? I'm writing these down. What? Sourdough. Is that San Francisco? I thought London, Denmark. Okay. Gonna go for clam chowder. I like clam chowder. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna generate a bowl, or let's see, clam chowder in a wooden bowl. It's always fancier when it's in a wooden bowl. So I'm gonna make sure I'm spelling correctly. Let's generate a lot of examples. And I wanna note how fast it's gonna be. That is a gamble to say right as I hit enter. So we're generating, look at that. So we've already got our clam chowder generated. But let's say I'm generating this for a restaurant that I'm potentially opening, and I wanna make the scene a bit nicer. Let's add stuff. It's usually a good practice to be as specific and you can be as elaborate with your prompts as possible. And I always like to put stuff in the background. So I'm gonna put in with a blurry bridge in the background. Okay. I like making stuff blurry. It makes it look really nice and fancy. So again, rewriting the prompt. Look at this. Oh, so now I've got my images that I might use for my menu. And so in this, we've seen how fast it is to develop, how you can kind of quickly iterate your ideas and come up with new image designs. And also a thing to note is, I'm doing this in the UI, but everything we're showing, there is an SDK and an API for this. So if you want this functionality built into your systems and apps, you can do exactly that. With that, I will hand it back to Nelson to talk about the rest of the features.
Thank you, Zach. Super exciting. Thank you. If we could go back to the slides, thank you. So that's image generation. Another key feature, as I mentioned earlier, is related to product image editing, right? We have many companies, have products, right? And products usually get shown in websites, e-commerce websites, right? They're key to attract your customers, to let them experience your product. And often what you have is you start off with an image of a product, like you see here, is an image. But many times you just want to put that product in a different setting, right? You want to change that product in a new setting, and that requires a couple of really key capabilities. Number one is scene generation, as you can see here, right? You generate a scene around the product, but the other key capability with these models is you want to make sure that the product keeps the appearance, right? And in this case, the product has text, has visuals, so those are two key factors. And we're pleased that our Google Shopping team announced this capability earlier this year at Google I/O. Many merchants that work with Google Shopping really like this capability, and we're pleased that through this collaboration between Google Cloud and Google Shopping, we can bring the same features to Imagen, and it's available, API, SDK, is available today, and now I'm gonna turn it over to Zach for a brief showcase. Go ahead, Zach, if we could switch back to the demo.
Okay, we're switching back to demos. It's gonna be a demo-rich session.
Yep.
Okay, so we're back in the UI. Before, we were over here in the generate section. We've moved over here into the edit section. And what we're gonna do is we are gonna come over here and enable product style image editing. That's gonna be this feature, and you can enable it in the UI. But again, everything here is API and SDK available as well, so you can do all the same stuff with code. And then we need to come up with the product we want to generate photos for, because we can generate them if we've got a photo of a unique item. And one unique item that I think is going to be cool to test is something unique to this event. So we've actually got, has anyone got the fancy Cloud Next bottle with the cool like rubber bit. Hold it up so people can see it. People in the back, people in the middle, so people can see this is the product. This is the product. So I have taken, yeah, hold it up, look around, you can see what it looks like. So I've got a photo, and let's say we want to create some new versions of this, so here it is. So I got a photo, I took a photo, and then what I can do, we've got the product style enabled, I can enter in a prompt, and if everyone looks directly up, I have just typed this in right now, and what I'm doing is I wrote a prompt, and a hot tip is I'm going to set this off. And a thing to note, a best practice when writing prompts, especially for doing things regarding like generating new backgrounds for products or images or anything else, is rather than just write the prompt, because we know the prompt is going to generate the background, rather than just define here's what the background should look like, it's a good tip to also reference the subject in the prompt. So I'm not just saying I want the background to look like this, I'm saying a water bottle on a desk with pencils, pens, and paper, also on the desk with sunlight coming through the window in the background. So I've referenced the subject in my prompt. I think it's a really key feature, and this is it. We've now got our fancy product images generated. And you can see it's kind of kept the perspective of the background. It's generated relative to the object. And yeah, I think it's going to be really powerful for people who want to quickly generate new product photos with any products they have. That's the demo. Thank you very much. Back to Nelson.
Thank you. Great. Excellent. So styles, right? Styles are the key, right? So we know that styles, we accomplish two things. One is making it really simple to generate images that reflect a particular style, and we have 7 styles that are predefined. But in addition to that, right, enabling developers, users, creators to take a few images and launch a custom style. So let's see the styles in action with Zach again. Back to the demo.
Back to the demo slides, please, or on the screen. So we're going to jump back into the generate section where we've got our clam chowder still sitting there. And let's say, okay, I want to open a restaurant in San Francisco. So it's got to be hip and happening. So we've got some styles that are pre-built into it, so we can regenerate this using our pop art style. And it's same prompt. Again, it's all showing how quickly you can iterate stuff. And now we've got some more cool, quirky versions of the same image, but with our predefined style that's already built in to Imagen. So that is an example of how you can use predefined styles. But let's say you've got your own style. You've got something from your own company that you want to replicate. And an example of this that I think is really cool is, actually it's good to know, is there anybody in the crowd who's web developers, done anything with front ends? Built UIs, anything like this? Okay. So I've done that as well. And one of the common challenges of that is having consistent icons. So you might find like a cool icon pack, but it's, okay, we've got a couple of cool icons here, but we're missing like an icon for, I don't know, a new section of the UI, like, oh, I've got to find a designer to redo that. What if you could say, start with, I think I've got, here's some icons here. So we've got these icons. Notice that there's only 7 of them. So we've got 7 icons, and we've fed these into Imagen to generate a custom style, what would you call it, model?
Yeah.
Custom style.
Yeah. Isometric, we call them.
Yeah. We call these isometric. So we fed these into Imagen. It's learnt this style. So then we can come back into our Imagen and generate, won't generate clam chowder, but I'll generate a freight truck. And then over here we can say, use our custom style, isometric, select. It will say, reference this in the prompt. Or I can just copy it in isometric style. So before, we didn't have an icon for our website. And now we have these cool icons. I actually think it's probably a cool thing to show, without this isometric style defined, what the trucks look like. So here's the icons that we've got generated, and here is what would normally come out of Imagen if you say a freight truck. So it goes to show the power of using this custom style feature, especially if you've got the requirement to have consistent marketing material, things like that in your company. So it's a really powerful feature, especially for developers if you want to generate icons, I think. But yeah, back to Nelson.
Thank you. Excellent, excellent. Well, now it is our pleasure to introduce Vishal Sood, Chief Product Officer at Typeface. Welcome, Vishal.
So hi everyone, I'm Vishal. Sorry, yeah, I do need to click slides. So Vishal, I lead product at Typeface, and we are pretty excited and we have a lot of gratitude towards the Imagen team. We use their models. We also use the text model from Vertex AI. And before I talk much about Typeface, let me just play a video, just give you a sneak peek of the demo. So let's just roll it, and then we can talk more about Typeface.
Standard AI is often too generic. While it excels at creating visually striking images, it falls short in capturing a brand's unique voice and visual identity. Typeface's AI is specifically designed to help brands create content that not only looks great, but feels like it truly belongs to them. And our AI is dedicated solely to your brand, so your IP always remains private and secure. So how does it work? We absorb everything about your brand, from image samples to messaging to brand guidelines. Then we train custom AI that's as unique as your brand itself. Now any employee can turn their creative ideas into compelling images and copy in just seconds, all while staying on brand and personalized to your audience profiles. Gone are the days when on-brand content creation was limited to a select few. We get it. You need more than just one-off content pieces. That's why Typeface has a wide range of templates. Create 10 times more personalized content across all your channels, campaigns, and audience segments. Everything from digital ads to SEO-optimized blog posts to localized web pages to more. This is Typeface, the only AI designed for enterprises, so your brand can truly tell your story your way.
Thank you for that. So let me quickly brief what you just saw. So you saw an enterprise SaaS application that can learn your products, it can learn your voice, and it can now create outputs which are multimodal in nature. So a Google responsive display ad has both images and text in it. And now we can do that all with one shot. And I would encourage you to visit our booth if that's interesting to you, and we have much more detailed demos there. But before I go deeper on the Typeface stack and how we built it on top of Imagen and other models, let me actually talk about how companies are trying to leverage generative AI and what problems are they struggling with, right? So there are broadly 4 kinds of problems we hear from all the customers we talk to. The first problem is all about the best-in-class models. Now, I don't know how many of you are very active in this space. Every single morning I wake up, there are 4 new Twitter demos, 5 new models, and the models I knew have already been updated. So it's just crazy how fast the space is moving. Like we started Typeface about a year ago, and at that point in time, there was no generative AI per se in this kind of scale. There was no ChatGPT, nothing. And just a year later, we have phenomenally improved the quality of the output. And Imagen team and the Bison team has moved really, really fast. But then you want a partner in this journey who can stay on top of all these innovations. Like we have a very close partnership with Nelson here and team, and moment they release something, that few days later we have it in production. So that's the kind of scale people want, right? So that's the first part of it. The second part is deep personalization. So companies, you have a lot of content already. It's not like you don't have content today. But how can we use that content to learn from it and then create unique assets in your brand, in your voice, in your products in it? And how do we do it at scale? You don't have to do it one by one in the UI. How do we do it in a batch mode, in a workflow setting, right? So that's the kind of problem you need to solve, which also plays into the last one, but I'll get back to that. The third is IP ownership. So everything Typeface does is enterprise grade. So as you share your content with us, we create a pretty unique layer called Typeface Graph. I'll cover that in a second. But how do we protect your assets from helping improve just generic public AI but we actually just keep that for your company and create assets which are fairly unique, but at the same time, all your content, your voice, and your assets are always secure. The last thing is integrated workflows. So I don't know how many of you are in the marketing space, but I don't know how many MarTech tools exist there, and people have already picked their favorite ones, and marketers are actually already in their tools. What they don't want to do is learn yet another tool. So how do we integrate generative AI into your existing workflows and help you create content wherever you already are? So that's a very big piece of puzzle that you also need to solve when you look at this. So these 4 problems are precisely what we are solving at Typeface. And let me quickly cover how we are doing it. So very early on in the Typeface journey, we made a very conscious decision that we are not going to invest and build our own foundational models. We're not going to build an LLM, we're not going to build an image model, and we're going to rely on the best-in-class models that exist out there, and that's why we partner with Google. And that partnership has kind of gone very well for us, and I'm happy to talk more about it. But we actually build on top of Google's Vertex AI models, which we have talked about earlier as well. And what Typeface does is the 3 layers on top of that. I thought this was a technical audience, so this is my attempt at an architecture slide. So if you look at the first layer there, it's called the graph. So the simplest way to think about it is you bring your existing content into Typeface, and it doesn't have to be a copy. You can point us to your existing digital asset management systems, you can point us to your existing CMS systems, or you can point us to a Google Drive with all your content on it. We can learn from that, and we create a private content graph for you within Typeface. So I say private because this is not going to help your competition. It's not going to help generic AI get better. It's going to be the special AI for your company, and that's the graph layer. Then what we do is we take this knowledge that we have from your company, we marry it with the foundational models, like Imagen, you just saw some pretty cool demos, and we now create personalized content for you, which is our blend layer. So the blend layer actually does that. So when you were seeing in the UI, the Roha perfume example, that was blend layer in action. And then finally, as business users, you don't really want to learn. I know the prompting is great, and Zach is a master of that art, but not everybody is, right? So how do you help people, especially people who don't do this for a living, don't have to worry about prompts, they can just fill simple forms, and how can we automatically create some compelling content for them? So how do you stay in the flow of your work and still create compelling content, which is flow of your work could be, I actually want a Google ad. I don't necessarily want to know how to go about creating an image, then a text. I just want to do it one shot, right? And the second thing is I want it within the app I am already in where I'm planning my paid media campaigns. So that's the flow layer for us. And on top of that exist various use cases like marketing, HR, sales, and product. Right? So that's a little bit about the technical stack behind Typeface. And let me just talk about this a little bit. So is anybody here from marketing or works in the marketing space at all? Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about marketing. So what happens is a lot of marketers we talk to, they usually have some form of a content. It could be a YouTube video, it could be some existing product images, but then the name of the game is personalization. Like how do I reach to various channels? So if I go to Instagram, I talk in a certain voice and I have a certain style to my images. If I go on my website, I have a slightly different style to my images. So that's kind of one form of personalization, which is a channel-based personalization. The second form of personalization is within that channel, how do I optimize for every single audience or a set of audiences that come to my site? So that's a second form of personalization. Then finally, there's another personalization, which is all of this, I want to keep a consistent brand voice and brand kit and all that kind of stuff that I already have, which could mean, like if you look at Google's whole branding in the show, there are 4 predominant colors you will see. And how do you kind of incorporate all of these personalizations and help you create content at tremendous scale? And that's kind of what Typeface does. And we do it with the help of our partners at Google. So, yeah, thank you. Okay. With that, I'll give it back to Nelson. Thank you, Nelson. Thank you.
To see, and we now wanted to highlight 2 additional features that we're really excited about. The next one is tuning, right? Raise your hand if you have heard about tuning for objects, Dream Booth, the Dream Booth Google research paper, right? Exactly, right? So that's a very common capability. It's supported in Imagen. We have 2 features to enable tuning. One is what we call the standard tuning based on Dream Booth, Google research, but we're pleased to launch an additional feature called instant tuning. Now, instant tuning is a brand new capability. It significantly shortens the time that you need to train the model, right? Instant tuning really works well with common objects, but if you have an object that is more unique to your business, you could actually leverage the standard tuning based on Dreambooth. But instant tuning we're very excited about, and Zach is going to share a brief demo of tuning, instant tuning in particular.
Okay, so if we can switch back. No, my prompts are visible now. So if we switch back to the demo. So here is an example. In fact, I'll show. We should have an image somewhere. Might be. Oh, there it is. Boom. So this is an actual image we took of a brown bag. Yep. And what we can do is we've uploaded. How many images did we upload to?
It was a few shots, like 4 to 6 images, not that many.
4 to 6 images of this specific product.
Yep.
And what we can do is then start generating images with that product. So we can come into the generation. We can specify not a style, but a custom subject. And we have a few here, but we have the handbag. So we'll select that. And it will say, OK, if you want to start using this custom subject, simply reference handbag in your prompt. So we'll do that. And I'm going to type really fast. There we go. And this is a handbag on a white carpet. Let's generate a couple of these. So let's say we're generating brand new product photos. So we would maybe specify if we're building a new product, we could upload and fine tune a model. So specifically for our company, we've got really quick access to generate images of that product. And you'll see it's generating the product images, but you can see there's like slight variations in the angle of the product. Maybe there's like creases where there weren't creases. So it's very intelligent understanding of actually even the properties of the product and how it compares to like maybe how bags can move in the natural world. But yeah, that's how we do fine tuning, and we'll hand it back to Nelson.
Instant tuning. Thank you. Thank you, Zach. So we have one more demo, and this demo is about digital watermarking, right? But let me introduce the concept first. There are 2 important questions, right, that our customers ask when images are generated by AI, right? And really, the first question is, how do you protect your content, right? As Vishal was describing earlier, how do you ensure that this image that you generated with your creativity is protected? Question number 1. And question number 2 is, what if somebody claims that your company generated an image, but that image actually wasn't yours? Or maybe you generated the image and somebody edited the image and they claim that it's your image, right? That's where digital watermarking comes in, right? And this new capability, we launched it in partnership with Google DeepMind. It's based on the Google DeepMind SynthID technology. And it starts with an image. You watermark that image, right? There's a watermarking service. And then you get an image. Now, if you see those 2 images, to the eye, they look exactly the same, but they're different. The pixels in the watermark image include a watermark, right? That is a key thing. And what that does is it makes it very robust. It makes it very difficult to tamper that image without, really editing the image without knowing that that image was watermarked to begin with. And then we also provide a verification service, right? Where you can send an image, and this verification service will tell you whether the image is watermarked, not watermarked, or whether the image was watermarked but changed. And Zach will share a brief demo.
OK, if we switch back to the demo, what I'm showing is our fancy chowder pictures. And if we want to inject our digital watermark into these pictures, all we have to do is generate them with this setting, add digital watermark enabled. So I will enable that, and then I will hit generate. And this will go off. This will generate those images again and inject that invisible watermark visually into the image. So what we have now is we have these images, and they have a watermark that is imperceivable to humans. So I will download one of these. Let's export. So that's now we get the option to upscale. That's where that's done. But I'll just download it. And we have our verify service. So we can come over here. We can upload our image. This is the image that we just downloaded. We see watermark detected. Cool. But let's upload an image that doesn't have a watermark. What would that happen? So let's say, I don't know, this one. This is a screenshot of the bag. That's, assume, doesn't have a watermark. But there is a question which I initially had as a developer. I'm like, I want to break this. So what happens, classic thing, an image that has a watermark, what happens? Anybody know what I'm going to test out? Shout it out. Screenshot it. That's it. I'm going to hack this. Let's screenshot it, not even screenshot it perfectly. Capture. That's saved. Come over. Verify. Upload. Download. This is the screenshot. You can see the name. Watermark detected.
All right.
The watermark is not part of the metadata of the image. It's actually the visual data of the image. It's a very powerful, robust service. With that, hand it back to Nelson.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach. Thank you. Excellent. Well, I'm now really excited to welcome to the stage Art Sharm from Omnicom, Chief Product Officer at Omnicom. Welcome, Sharm. Art.
Thanks, Nelson.
Welcome, Art.
Thanks.
All right. And here's the...
I think we're almost out of time, so I'm going to try to move very, very quickly. Perfect. Thrilled to be here. Excited to talk about what we're doing with generative AI at Omnicom. I know there's a technical audience. I'm going to focus a little bit more initially on the business aspect, talk about how we've deployed technology at Omnicom and how that influences, to some degree, how we implement these technologies. If you don't know what Omnicom is, we're one of the world's largest marketing communications firms. We're a holding company of large agencies across all aspects of marketing, creative, media, et cetera. And we view generative AI as fundamental to our business going forward. In terms of data, AI, technology, we have been hyper-focused on deploying these capabilities and in the service of outcomes for our clients. And we do that through a platform that we call Omni, which is really our operating system. It's how we bring technology into the hands of our practitioners and into the heart of everything that we do. And Omni is 5 years old, it's global, it's scaled, and from inception, AI has been at the heart of what we do, but clearly the advent of generative AI has caused us to really rethink or prioritize the injection of AI into all aspects of the marketing workflow. So across automation, predictive models, personalization, the optimization of campaigns, but ultimately in the actual creation of content, which is where we partner with Google and Imagen, and we'll talk about that in a second. And ultimately, we don't just think that this is something that's going to transform the work we do for our clients. We think this technology transforms, ultimately, our entire organization. We've already deployed a number of different AI-based utilities within Omni as a platform. At the heart of this, just before we get into the image generation piece, we feel that for an organization of our size, if you think about the clients that we work with, large global brands, a responsible AI approach, the vetting of the models from an ethics and legal perspective is critical. That's actually one of the key reasons that we actually have partnered with Google on Imagen, and we're really excited to work with them on that portion of the capability. And ultimately, none of this matters if we actually don't use these technologies to make an impact on our clients' business. So, content generation. There are thousands of top-level creative professionals at Omnicom. We have, as an industry, a conference in the south of France every year where we celebrate path-breaking creative work. So you can imagine that talking about generating content with artificial intelligence is a really, really big deal for us. And initially, where we see the key opportunity, given the types of clients we work with, the type of work we do, is really in pre-production inspiration. The ability to iterate through content, through concepts and versions and so on and so forth, really, really efficiently, really, really quickly, and expand the scope of what we're doing and deliver better work for our clients. And that's ultimately where we've partnered with Imagen, and we'll talk about how that works. I'm not a creative. I'm sort of a MarTech nerd, which is much less cool. But ultimately, I worked with our creative community to kind of think about how we bring together the rich data that lives in our Omni platform with creative insights and prompts, feed that into Imagen, and then deliver a content experience. And I'll get into just a little bit of sense of how we're doing that, and then we'll do a super quick demo or video demo of how it comes to life in our platform. So what we're doing is we're taking the audience persona from Omni. Think of that as a customer segmentation, a profile, which comes with a huge set of rich data assets, and we're running that through an LLM and compressing it into a verbal description and prompt, and then marrying that with creative direction, creative concepts, some of the stuff that you just saw in some of the demos, and then creating a new prompt, which we call a D-prompt, a diffusion prompt, which is specifically defined for or created for Imagen, to the point earlier that not all of our end users are like experts in prompt engineering, and then we're feeding that in and generating the imagery. And I'll show you how it works. So I'm actually going to start in Omni. This is the platform. You can see that we have various capabilities, different tools, and different outputs from those tools. And I'm going to go into ultimately our Audience Explorer capability and show you an audience that I created for the conference, which is sort of a yoga enthusiast audience. So I bring up the yoga enthusiasts. You can see there's a bunch of demographic data about that audience. The reason I wanted to show this is because I wanted to show kind of the richness of the data file that we ultimately feed into the model that creates the prompt for image creation. So various different types of data attributes, advanced audience data, media consumption data, all of that, all those attributes about our users is part of what makes up that audience profile. And then the criteria to build that audience is some advanced audience profiles, focusing on fitness, yoga, et cetera. Okay, now I'm actually going to generate through the LLM the verbal description of that audience, which describes the audience, and then I'm going to switch to our image generation framework, which is going to call Imagen, and I'm going to take that, marry it with some key stylistic guides, in this case, a relaxing fine art illustrative style, a relaxing mood, so that's a custom style, and then generate a set of images. And again, we've seen a bunch of these demos today now, so you have a sense of how the product works, enabling certain image editing capabilities, all of which sit on top of aspects of Imagen. And then I can actually take those images, and start to curate them into a collection, and then sort of name that collection and define it as an object in Omni. And so this is where we'd be starting to create that mood board of creative concepts that those creatives can then use to drive their work forward. And then if ultimately once I've created that collection, if I have a sense of that I want to create additional styles, I can bring that up, change that illustrative style to a photorealistic style, maybe change camera angles, again, referencing back the demos that we saw earlier, and I can bring those images up, add those to the collection, and ultimately define this sort of the parameters of that creative ideation that's going to drive that process forward. And that becomes an object in Omni that people can collaborate on. You can see it over there alongside audiences and other aspects. So hope we gave you a sense of how we're approaching the use of generative AI. I think key point is that we do envisage over time potentially the utilization of this capability in production ads. At this stage, it's really about that pre-production inspiration. And I'll pass it back to Nelson to wrap up.
Thank you. Excellent. That was great to see. Great to see all the innovation here today. As we discussed, right, API, we saw a number of demos on the UI, but API SDK, that's really important to provide a developer experience. And I'd like to turn it over to Zach, who is going to talk about that experience for developers. Go ahead, Zach.
Absolutely. Basically, the thing to know is that there is an SDK. Everything we've shown through the UI, the visible watermark, verification, generation, editing, tuning, everything is accessible through a Python SDK at the moment, with more languages to come later, but also a full REST API. So if you can make REST calls from your applications or services or pipelines, you can use Imagen in your pipelines right now. I'm going to ask to switch to the demo laptop. It's not really a demo, but more just to show that there is code. There are code labs available on the Google Cloud Generative AI repository in GitHub that show you how you can run Imagen in notebooks right now. And in fact, we'll switch back to the slides to show some of the resources where you can learn more about Imagen and get started with Imagen code.
Yeah, fantastic. So basically have additional sessions. There's some sessions taking place tomorrow. Other sessions already took place, but you can see the recording. We also have resources. There's a lot of documentation about Imagen. There is also the SDK information. And also, at the expo, there's an exciting couple of exhibits, one on generative AI, and there's an exhibit that's really interesting where you can get a souvenir, a postcard, right, generated by LLMs, by Palm and Imagen. So we look forward to seeing you there. And also, last but not least, we really appreciate your feedback. We hope that this session was useful. And if you could leverage the app and share your feedback, we appreciate it. And for those of you that are here, enjoy the rest of Cloud Next. And those of you watching remotely, have a great day or evening. And thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.